today's video I'm looking at how I put together this card. Now this card is mostly using elements from the Peaceful Peonies collection, but I've also used the Treasured Frame cut, foil and embossed die, and the key is part of that set also. That's part of the Modern Essentials collection. Okay, so I've got the lovely pattern paper from the collection, and I've got this beautiful hot foil stamp, and then I've got some die cuts. So this one in the corner is just cuts an outline that you can use to add as an embellishment, and then in the corners I've used this die, and I've got some spare ones of those, and this actually cuts with a piece that folds back. So rather than actually sticking these to something, you can actually use them as like a photo corner. So you can stick the back of this down and then slide in the thing you want to hold. So that's great for scrapbooking and albums, that kind of thing. If there's perhaps photos you might want to take out, or things you might want to take out and look at the back of. So lovely idea, those. So that's that die. It looks a bit strange, but it cuts these lovely corner pieces here. So for this panel I foiled the frame first. So let's have a look at how we do that. And I've got that die here, but I'm getting ready to cut the foil for it. So if I'm doing cut, foil and embossed dies, normally we use the Couture Creations conversion plate. It's a very thick metal plate. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus. I'm going to zoom in as well. Right, still not getting it. Let me see if I can. That should be better. There we are. So you can see that's a really thick, substantial metal plate. Okay, it says on it, get that in the camera, metal conversion plate. So if you're not sure if what you've got is a metal shim or the conversion plate, it says conversion plate on it, and it is really thick and substantial. It's not at all bendy. Okay, now I need to put that on my GoPress and full to warm up. So let me do that. It's just going to go on there. Make sure it's straight. Oops. And then close the lid and leave that to warm up. So, wanted to get that out of the way, so that's warming up while I'm talking. And sometimes, depending on your die cutting machine, you might find that you get lots of overfoiling when you use that conversion plate. And if that is the case with your die cutting machine, then alternatively you can use two thin metal shims, or a metal shim with some card shims underneath it, just to adjust the thickness that you've got, so that you're then putting your die onto. So I've got here my treasured frames. It's facing down because I like to cut the centre of the foil out. I'll just grab my craft knife. So I've got a self-healing cutting mat that I only use when I'm trimming my foil. Okay, so it's not got lots of scratches in it. It's got a few marks from foil, but if you feel the surface, it still feels smooth, because I don't want any imperfections in this surface to damage my foil. So I've taped it down with my die, and I'm just going to trim around the outside quickly. And that's for the convenience of taping it down now and when I'm actually foiling it. So that is completely waste. I'm just going to put another piece of foil in this corner, piece of tape in that corner. And then quite roughly, I'm going to cut out the middle with my craft knife. Now I'm just a few millimetres from the inside edge of the die. So I'm not taking every detail, and I'm not taking too long over it. There we are. Just not cut that bit. Now, if you haven't got a self-healing mat, I would just put a piece of copy paper down on whatever surface you use. Obviously make sure it's a surface that you're not going to cut into too easily, but that will just protect the back of the foil while you're cutting. Okay, so I've cut that out. I've got a piece of card. I think it's this bit. No, what have I done with my card? It's over there. I put it in a safe place while I was setting up the camera. Sorry, excuse my arm. Right, so I've got my piece of card, and I've got that just a bit bigger than my die. And I'm gonna unpeel everything. So I'm gonna peel my tape off the die first and put my tape to one side for a moment. And I'm using a different colour foil here to what I've used on the actual card. And I may well use this to make another card. Now I've got a bit here that really is quite a ragged edge. I'm just going to tidy that up before I go any further, because that's a prime candidate for causing overfoiling. That's better. Okay, that'll be better. Right, so my card, my foil. Now you could put your die on the GoPress and foil and then try and put your foil over the top and then try and get your card on top without it moving. But there's so many ways that can go wrong. I've given up trying to do that, because when you close the lid and undock it, there's a little jolt and things tend to move, particularly on the metal plate, because it's quite slippery. There's nothing to hold it still like there is when you're just using the base plate, you know, the non-slip base that's underneath. So just taping my die and my foil down to the card. And I only need a couple of pieces. It is just to stop it sliding around when I put it on the GoPress and foil. Okay, so that will need to warm up as well. So let me get rid of my cutting mat. Put that down on the floor. Right, so there's two reasons I take the middle out. One is so that I don't get over foiling, leaving foil in the middle, which would be a shame, because I want to foil this beautiful hot foil stamp in there. And the other thing is I've probably got enough foil there to use my sentiment, as long as it stays in nice pristine condition, which it won't do if I leave it in the middle there. Okay, so bring this out. So this just needs to go on there. Now you might want to put a card shim in as well, or you might not. I would certainly try it without first. So you just put that on and you close your lid and let it warm up. Okay, and when it's had, oh, no, maybe a minute to warm up, I like to be thorough, then you can roll it through your die cutting machine. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that, let me just bring my card back. Oops. Bring my card back. So this lovely hot foil stamp, and actually the foiling on the frame, I did with this foil. It's kind of, it's not a speckly glitter foil. It's kind of got these big spots that are iridescent and kind of a dappled pattern almost. So let me just try and get the light on that properly. Zoom the camera a bit and focus it. There we are. So it's kind of that dappled effect. It kind of moves as the light changes and the light reflecting off it changes. Okay, so it's a lovely foil. and that one is silver foil iridescent sequin pattern, it says, and I'll put the product code in my blog post. Okay, and then the foil I'm using today is this one, and that is muted pink foil mirror finish. Okay, so I will put links to them both, and I use the peach matte finish foil for the sentiment on this one, and again the product code will be in the blog post at the bottom. So if you're watching this on YouTube, then if you have a look in the video description, there'll be a link to the blog post. Okay, so I'm just going to roll my frame through my die cutting machine, and then I shall be back with you, so bear with me. Okay, so let's see how we got on with doing this. So there's my die cut. Put that back to one side. That's it. I'm just redocking the GoPress so that it stays nice and hot, and then I can undo my tape. Take the die off. Sometimes these just drop out, so there we are. It cuts the foil as well as the card. There we are. That's just peeled off really easily. There. Okay. Now that is pretty good. I've got a little bit of overfoiling just down this edge. It is only a little tiny bit of overfoiling. It probably wouldn't do any harm to just leave it there. Let me zoom the camera right in so you can see that. There, can you see that? Just a bit of fuzziness next to the line, as opposed to the other side, which is a nice crisp line. Okay, so getting overfoiling off of pearlescent card, which this is, can be a bit of a problem, because if you're not very careful using a rubber, or not even very careful, you can spoil the finish on your card. But I made a discovery, and that is, because this is a coated cardstock rather than an uncoated porous one, things like tapes peel off it without damaging it. So I've got here a piece of scrap card. I'm just going to cut this down a bit. A little piece of scrap card, and I'm going to use the tape runner to put some tape on it. You could try this with some masking tape. My masking tape is very low tack and not sticky enough. But what I found is that if I do that, and I'm going to curve the card a bit, I can actually do that and peel it back off, and it will take off the overfoiling without spoiling the surface of the card. So you do have to be careful, obviously, that you don't take off foil that you want. But I've actually found that works. It's less risky than using a rubber on it when you're using coated card. I've got some along the edge here as well. Let me just try and get a bit more of this off. There. So there. Let me zoom in again. It's taken that fuzzy line off that was along the edge there, and that one's still fine. So I need to experiment more with that technique, but certainly that's a bit of a lifesaver when you're using coated card. Okay, so I've got my frame now, and I need to take my conversion plate off the GoPress and foil. Let me bring the camera back. There we are. Okay, and I'm going to need to position my hot foil stamp. Okay, so to position my hot foil stamp, I like to use a stamp press magnet. And you've got to remember it's going to come out backwards. So if I want kind of decide which side you want straight and where that's going to be, you need to put it down on whatever you're foiling on, okay, so that it's the pattern side down. Okay, and then I use a stamp press magnet that I've got wrapped in some masking tape. The masking tape's important. Okay, I put that on the back and it holds it in place for me. Okay, and I can still slide it about a bit if I need to. So if I decide that I've got it too close to an edge somewhere, or too high, or something, then I can just adjust it. And I think I'm going to put it there. Okay, so the next I need my GoPress and foil. And I need to take my conversion plate off. Now that is hot, so I usually grab it in my silicone mat. So if I take this, if I actually sort of slide it over, I can then grab it in the mat, and that protects my fingers, and obviously put it on something that isn't going to be spoilt by the heat from it. Put it over there out of the way. Okay, so I've got my GoPress and foil here now. And now my piece that I want to foil, this needs to end up on there. And at the moment it's on my card and I haven't got any foil. So how am I going to get the foil in between? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over, and you can see the hot foil stamp doesn't fall off because it's a really strong magnet. Okay, and then I'm going to put this in a corner like so, and I use a corner because I can line up with it again later. So when I want to, in a minute I'm going to lift this off, so when I want to put it back after I put my foil on, I need to know I can line it up with the corner. But also if you're batch making, if you're doing a set of invitations or lots of, you know, same sort of card but in different colour schemes, you might want to batch make, and once you've got this in place and you know where you need to line your card up each time, it can stay there and you just keep putting your fresh piece of card on. Okay, so there's that. Oops, sorry, cutting plate for the die cutting machine. So I'm going to close the lid, put this back on the base so that it warms up. Now my piece of foil that I cut out, whatever I've done with that, where has that ended up? Oh, there it is. Right, hiding under the card. Now, is this big enough, I wonder, for my pattern? I don't think it is. I think I'm just going to use that for the sentiment, and I'm going to cut a fresh piece for foiling the peony. So while that is warming up, I can be cutting my foil. So I find a large pair of scissors, best for cutting my foil, and I cut straight across my foil roll, and then I trim my foil to shape afterwards. And I have to say, in the same way, I wouldn't use a pair of scissors this size for cutting decoupage. I definitely wouldn't use decoupage scissors for cutting my foil, because it's taking little snips and it's going to bend and crinkle, and yeah, it's best to have a nice large pair of scissors. So I need to cut my foil to size a bit because it's a bit big. Now let me just bring the GoPress back over. So I can lay this on the lid. There's not enough heat coming through to cause a problem. Okay, and actually it's going to need to be that way up, so make sure you put it the right way up, and then I can look for kind of where I need to trim foil off. So I think probably there. And quite often I just put folds in to give me a guideline to cut on, and then I'll trim a bit, and then I'll go back again and do the next one. Because I find if I try and do too many at once, sometimes it's moved between doing the folds, and then I end up there's the top's there, and then let's find out where the bottom is. So I need to kind of come, that's too much, across there maybe for the bottom. And the reason I want to get rid of some of the excess foil is so that I don't get overfoiling. I might still get a little bit, but I don't want a lot. And when you've got sort of huge corners sort of outside the area of your hot foil stamp on your foil, that's when you'll tend to get overfoiling. It's coming up there. What kind of wants to come across there? That's fine. I probably want to come up a bit off the bottom as well. Yep. Okay, so there's my piece of foil. This needs to be really hot, so I'm going to put it back on to make sure it's hot. I'll quick tidy up when I'm waiting. Now I don't need a scrap of foil because I need to do a test. So I need to test how many shims I'm going to need. So I'm going to cut a piece of this card off the end here, just to kind of do a test. Probably that piece of foil will do nicely for doing my testing. Doesn't need to be a big piece. Need to cover as much area on the hot foil stamp that might have different pressure needs as I can. Okay, so that's that. Now I use my GoPress and foil a lot, so I know how many shims I normally need. So I think 3 will be the right number, but I'm still going to do a test anyway. So my GoPress and foil is hot. Let me just turn this round. Now I'm going to leave it. Can I leave it on there? Can you still see what I'm doing? No, let me bring it out. Okay, let me undock it and bring it over here. So before I foil onto my frame, okay, I don't want to spoil this. This is looking lovely at the moment. I'm going to take this strip of card and this piece of scrap foil, and I'm going to lay that on there, being careful not to move the hot foil stamp. I'm going to put my 3 shims on. Okay, and that should be nice and hot, and I should just be able to roll that straight through my die cutting machine. Okay, so I've just rolled that straight through my die cutting machine, and I'll see what the foiling's like, and this is going back on the base so that it stays hot. Okay, so let's have a look. So I went along the length. Okay, and I can see that in the thicker part of that hot foil stamp, I've not quite got perfect foiling. See if the camera can pick that up. Can you see that? I've got some little spots missing. So I'm going to add in an extra shim when I actually do my foiling. So that will mean rather than using 3, I'm using two folded pieces of 250 GSM card. Okay, and this is just plain smooth card. I'm just folding those in the other way. There we are. Right, so that will be my 4 shims that I'm going to use. Okay, so the green light's come back on, so I'm going to pull this out. I don't normally pull it out when I'm just doing this. I only pull it out when I'm videoing, otherwise I just stand up and lean across. And I'm going to get my piece of foil, make sure I'm covering the whole of the hot foil stamp, and then I want my lovely frame, and that's going to go in the corner as it was when I put the hot foil stamp down. Just being careful to line it up with the edges before I put it down. Okay, and I'm going to put a piece of tape at the bottom here just to stop that moving about. Okay, and then I can put my shims on top and close the lid, and because that hot foil stamp was really nice and hot, it had lots of time, I'm just going to roll that through straight away. I'm just giving it an extra roll. Okay, so here we are. Take the shims off. Take my tape off, turn that over, okay, let's peel this and see if I've got overfoiling or what. No, I think that's worked really nicely. Okay, so that would work as an alternate colour scheme for this card. Okay, so choice is yours. I've just used some pearlescent cards from my stash. Okay, so you could use some white card or whatever. And this, I've just added a lacy die down the side here. Okay, and the key in the Treasured Frames, that's folded in exactly the same way. Now, when you buy this set, it'll be a nice silver die, and I've got another one here somewhere. Do you know? Ah, that is. So it'll be this kind of colour, possibly shiny as well. The black ones, the design team sometimes get a like pre-production version, so that we get them ahead of when collections are released. So that's why mine are black ones. But yeah, they're normally they're that kind of colour. So and that sentiment would fall in exactly the same way using your conversion plate. So there we are. So that's how I put together this card, and I do hope you like it. I think they're beautiful papers and beautiful hot foil stamps, and I'm sure I will use them a lot. Let's focus the camera on the card. Let me put the camera off it. There we are. So you've got that version. Or as I say, you could have that version. Okay, and that colour scheme would look lovely with these papers as well. Okay, thank you for watching.